Hello, everyone. This is Pastor Brett Strohecker at New Beginnings Church in Middletown, Pennsylvania. One of the things that happens in life is sometimes there are dark days. We all have them, and they're not pleasant when they come. I'm sorry, but when the dark days come, you really need to lean upon the Lord and your relationship with Him. One of my favorite bands that I just started listening to not long ago, but I really enjoy their music, is a band called Dream Theater. They're kind of like a art rock type of band. They have really good musicians, and their music really fascinates me for some reason. But they have a song called Illumination Theory. And in the last segment or the last movement of this song, one of the lyrics says, when you surrender to the light, you can face the darkest days. And you know, that's why the Lord is so important. Because when those dark days come, at least you have Him to lean upon. And I know that there's a lot of things that happen when the dark days come. They can produce anger within you. And what does the Bible say about anger? It says, and don't sin by letting anger gain control over you. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry, for anger gives a mighty foothold to the devil. That comes from Ephesians chapter 4, verses 26 to 27. And it also says in the Bible in James chapter 1, verses 19 to 20, my dear brothers and sisters, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. You can never make things right. Your anger can never make things right in God's sight. So when the darkness comes and it hits you, one of our responses is anger. And we really need to curtail that, because anger doesn't help the situation. It only makes it worse. Yes, there are going to be things that make you angry, but you really need to gain control of that anger by giving it to the Lord. If you want to shout at anybody, shout at the Lord. He will understand what you're going through, because He already knows what you're going through, and He already knows how it's making you feel. So, if you're going to be angry, vent your anger to Him. Don't vent your anger on the people that are involved or whatever the situation may be, because... Sorry, I got to grab a tissue here. Excuse me. You can't let your anger control you, because anger, it gives a mighty foothold to the devil. That's what it says in Ephesians. I know that sometimes when the dark days come, you can feel discouraged. And what does the Bible say about discouragement? It says in John chapter 14, verses 1 to 3, don't be troubled. You trust in God, now trust in me. There are many rooms in my Father's house, and I'm going to prepare a place for you. If this were not so, I would tell you plainly. When everything is ready, I will come and get you, so that you will always be with me where I am. And it also says in Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 6, be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid. Your Lord your God will go ahead of you. He will neither fail nor forsake you. And that's from Deuteronomy 31:6. And I know this has been kind of difficult for me to do today and getting on here and speaking with you guys, because today happens to be one of those dark days. And it's okay, because the Lord is with me and He's going to help me face this day, because you got to surrender to the light so you can face the darkest days. That's what the song says. And I'm gonna go into this looking at that truth. I know sometimes the dark days can produce a lot of frustration. Well, what does the Bible say about frustration? Well, in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 36, it says, patient endurance is what you need now, so you will continue to do God's will. Then you will receive all that He has promised. So, patient endurance. It's hard, but you gotta endure. You can't let stuff defeat you. You got to move on. You got to move forward, because if you stop and get caught up in everything, then you're going to find yourself stuck. And you don't want to be stuck. Being stuck doesn't help the problem or the situation. You need to move forward seeking God's guidance. Let me see if I can find a passage here regarding guidance, because that's exactly what we need in times such as these, where you face some of the darkest days. You need to look to God for guidance. And says here in Psalm 16, verse 7 through 8, I will bless the Lord who guides me. Even at night my heart instructs me. I know the Lord is always with me. I will not be shaken, for He is right beside me. Those are encouraging words. So let God give you direction for your life, okay? Because when you run into trouble or some dark days, you need His guidance to get you through. It says here in Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah says, and you will hear a voice say, this is the way, turn around and walk here. You got to listen to God's still small voice in times of trouble, because it's going to help you get to where you need to be. And it's going to help you get through whatever you're facing. So, we got to make sure that we trust in God. Like I said the other day, I don't know if it was here or somewhere else that I was preaching, Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. Well, when you face a dark time in your life, you really need to trust in the Lord and stop leaning on your own understanding. If you want a sure way out of the darkness, then you need to make sure that you lean upon God, because He has your best interest in mind, and His wisdom surpasses everything in His creation, because He created all of it, and He knows how things operate. He knows how things work, and He knows what's going on in our lives. He's intimately involved in our lives, and He will help you when you really, really need it. And He knows the best way to help you. So that's why it's important, folks, that we got to be surrendered to the Lord in our lives. Because if we're not surrendered to Him, when the dark days come, we're going to have extreme difficulty getting through them. But if you really firmly place your trust in the Lord, you really have nothing to fear. Things will work out. They might not go the way that you hope. They might not be the way you envision them to be, but God's going to make sure that He works everything out for good. He promises that in His Word, that He works everything out for the good for those who love Him. And if you love him, you will surrender to him. And if you surrender to him, you'll be obedient to him and you will show your love to him. You know, Jesus said, if you love me, obey my commandments. We just need to be obedient in the dark times and allow God to shed his light upon us and light the way before us so that we can get through the darkness. In fact, you know, if we look at the very first day of creation, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was empty, a formless mass cloaked in darkness, and the Spirit of God was hovering over its surface. Then God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw that it was good. Then he separated the light from the darkness. He called the light day, and the darkness night. Together these made up one day. Notice, whenever there was darkness on that first day of creation, the Spirit of God was hovering nearby. Same holds true for each one of us. Whenever we're facing some darkness in our life, or we find ourselves in some dark times, we have to remember that God, the Spirit of God, is hovering real close by. His Holy Spirit is there with us, ready to help us. All we have to do is reach out to him. And he will respond by saying, let there be light. He'll separate the light from the darkness. So if you surrender to that light, you can face the darkest days because God's going to separate you from the darkness and help you to walk in the light. I know that this was kind of hard for me to do this morning. I don't want to get into why, but I want to assure you this. Today is one of those dark days for me. But I'm going to turn to the light. I'm going to ask God to shed his light into this darkness so he can show me the path to get through it. He's done that for many people before. He will do that for you, just like I know and trust he will do it for me. So, till next time, remember, nothing in this world is more important than the love of Jesus Christ.